We are here. How are you, Outliers? Niiamah here, and thank you so much for letting me be a part of your journey. Here on the Outliers Edge Podcast Network, we create different opportunities for outliers to see themselves and to continue to up-level who they are so they can make their biggest impact in the world. What we are focused on here today on the Outliers Edge podcast is bringing in some amazing outliers who are living their world out loud. And I think that out loud perspective is very appropriate for our current featured outlier, Jennifer Lee Gunson. Jennifer Lee, it is amazing to be in conversation with you. I am feeling energized, just coming in, and I'm really glad that you're here. Thank you so much for taking the time and for being you.
I'm feeling energized because usually I'm on the other side of the microphone. So I love to be interviewed by other people and have a conversation. So there we go.
Yeah, so right. So we you say this year, and I think we've given a little bit of a teaser of this year. Um, why don't we do this? I want to give outliers a chance to get some context on you. I realize it's not just background, but it's because like background can be stuff that's there, but context here is like it's like you're an outlier. You play a big game. You look at the world differently, and you do things differently than others, right? We were just talking here before, like you're in places where you're doing things where there aren't a whole lot of other people doing the same, right? And so I want to give some context to you and your outlier overall and what you're creating externally, because most of this conversation is going to be focused on you and the way that you think. And I think this gives us some space to be like, oh, okay, this is like I get it. I get the game that she's playing. So why don't we go with that? Ah, I want to go right into that, Jennifer Lee, but like, yeah, let's just go with it, and then I'm going to bring in one thing afterwards. Okay, so let's go with that. What's the game? Tell us about the game you're playing, and we'll start off from there.
I love that. What is the game you're playing? I always talk about that when I am telling people how to interview. I loved how you just did that because it's a different way in. So my background, because I know a lot of this stuff, is actually traditional broadcasting. So I've been a radio DJ. I have flown in a helicopter for traffic. I sometimes still do as my fun side hustle. And I've reported traffic on TV and radio from the air. How does that make me different? Well, now I'm working in the podcast field, working with different organizations on how to level up their brand with podcasting and create better engagement or internal with internal communications to kind of like make those things that are a little bit fresher and higher engagement in internal communications. Anything to do with HR, anything to do with CEO messages, anything to do with newsletters, bring them to life through speaking because that's what I love to do if you can't tell already.
So Jennifer Lee, I'm grateful that you said that because like a huge part of me is just recognizing like that I need to go all in on speaking, and I don't want to become a speaker. I don't want to go on stages. I'm just like, there's something about that like I can speak. Look, if you want to call me and bring me in, I will do it. But it's not the place that like feels like it brings me to life. And I think it's because the conversation doesn't happen in the same kind of way, right? I'm like, you might as well just listen to I'd rather make you a course, listen to my podcast episode on this here. It's covered. And what I hear from you is that you've gone all in, like you've made your life around your voice, around speaking, around sharing that. And look, I'm going to share this with you because this is how I start off every conversation nowadays. But like who you've been to me it's someone who like shows like it is possible. It is possible. And not only is it possible, it is profitable, it is fun, it is it's great to be able to just like continue to lean into what works for you. And then the other part that I get about you is that you choose to do what works for you at a very high level. And that part is something that's newer for me. I used to just do what worked for me. But now I experience you as someone who like continues to invest in it and get better and better and better and continue to broaden the skill set while deepening the application of it. And there's so many other things about you that light me up. But in particular, right now, I'm really attuned to that because I'm in a transition myself on this thing. I'm like, is this right? Can I just like keep making podcasts and like can I just go all in on this? and I talk to you and I see how much fun you're having. I see the way that you keep bringing out value for your clients. And I'm like, game on, let's go.
You can, and then sometimes you don't realize, especially at a young age, like what you're doing will eventually lead you to your dream job because like I started off where I found out I had a different voice was back in the day when I was like 8 years old and I belonged to a church and we had children's choir. And I would get cast, no joke, all the time as the boy because there's a lot of boys in the Bible, but the boy narrator every single time because of my deep voice. And everyone would tell me about it. And I didn't realize it was unique or special or something that was going to come into play later in life because we get in our head and yes, I went on to broadcasting school. I wanted to be a successful broadcaster, but when things started to change later, like you talked about that career switch, you start doubting your tools and your talents because it's not fitting into those regular boxes that other people have of like, okay, I'm going to go into medicine and be a doctor. I'm going to be a lawyer, or I'm going to do this and it's going to give you money. My industry has changed so much, traditional broadcasting. A lot of people are getting cut from their jobs and the things are not there that they would usually be. So, like, I had an aha moment when I was in my helicopter flying around, and I was like, okay, the TV station on the back now is going to pipe in the traffic onto the radio at 6 o'clock and take the news from the TV to the radio. And so when I was sitting there, the girl in the back, who I love and still am friends with today, she is now reading traffic on the TV that's going to the radio, and I'm doing the radio traffic right after. And I was like, that doesn't seem right. I don't think I'm going to be here for very much longer. I decided to jump ship and leave on a high note, no pun intended, because it's in a helicopter. But I, you know,
Can I make sure I'm getting this right here? So if I'm getting you, you're like you were seeing that like, hey, the work that you were doing was actually like it was actually being like kind of consolidated, and you're essentially doing some very, very similar things, but it was just like you could see it actually being maybe yeah brought into this one role versus two. Is that what I'm hearing?
yeah. And so I just had a feeling and I trusted my gut and I left to go do some work for my family business, which is construction. So I just went to go do a little bit of marketing and stuff for them. And it was the hardest journey because I would go to recruiters and I've had this like fantastic career. I've had some great education. I've been very fortunate. And I would go into the recruiting office and they would look at me like I have no skills. And they would just be like, I don't understand. Like, why would you leave broadcasting? You shot yourself in the foot. Like, I don't get it. And I said, do not turn on the TV. Like, do not understand like what's going on in the broadcasting world. And they're like, well, you don't have any skills. So I'd like leave deflated and like from the office and be like, I don't know what I'm gonna do now with my life. Maybe I have to go back to school. Because again, voices don't fit in a job. Like it's not like a regular thing. And so I was like, oh no, my skills are not great then that I have. And then COVID hit. And unfortunately, the person that they hired after me, their job got cut because which was my job. And I was like, okay, trust your intuition always, even though people ridiculed me for it and was like, I don't understand why you would leave the coolest job on earth. And I said, it is an awesome job, but you also, and this goes for any industry, and probably you too, you always have to look at the signs. No career is perfect. Every career has its ebbs and flows. And you got to look at your industry. Industries are changing, especially with AI now. Like, like people need to look at like, how am I going to fit in here with AI. And so I was very lucky that I had some amazing mentors that were like, your voice is really great. You need to do a podcast during COVID and showcase your skill. And my first thought was, there's no money in that, which is the wrong thing. They always say, don't chase the money. But, when you got to pay the bills and stuff, you're like, I need to figure this out.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, hey. So I was like, okay, I'll create a podcast during COVID. So I'm doing some work for my family business. And I was interviewing people like yourself, like amazing entrepreneurs doing really cool stuff and how they were pivoting their businesses during the early days of COVID. The Home Builders Association, a month later, called me and said, "We want to start a podcast. We know you're a broadcaster in town. You have affiliation through your parents coming. You're highly recommended by a few people. Can you help us do a podcast?" And so I said, yes. At that moment, I didn't know I started my company and found my passion again. Because as I started working with them, I got more clients. And to this day, their podcast is still going. And I actually co host their podcast. And we've had like celebrity attention, government attention on it. And it's been great for the organization to showcase all their talented builders and interior designers and people in the industry to help build and renovate their home right the first time. So that's how my voice got me a company. And yeah.
Well, I'm appreciative of this. I'm smiling as you're talking, like in a lot of different ways. Um, one is one just like reading the signs, like seeing the tea leaves here, and making the move in advance. Like part of the reason why I'm talking to you now is because I started out as a retirement actuarial consultant at a big four consulting company, but my job was to value pensions and which are like for people. Or at least they were for people, at least in the US, because no one was getting pensions anymore. Like the things were shifting to a different form of retirement, 401k for everyone that's in there, right? And what was like one of the things that happened for me was we started selling off the like selling off the pension plans that we were doing on an annual basis as like a lump sum one-time thing. I was like, so once we do this, we don't have any more business going through. They're like,
Mhm.
yep. It's like, okay, this is like when you're selling you're selling the goose and instead of like the golden eggs, and I can see that something's gonna happen here, whether it happens in my lifetime or not, like in my career trajectory or not. This is still not it's not growing what we're doing. It's shrinking, and when we're helping it accelerate it, like it's time to go. So when you talk about that, like seeing the intuition, seeing what's coming up, and looking a couple of steps down the line, it hits, it hits. And I'm sure that outliers now listening to this are like, oh, I know it. Some of them right now, and outliers, if it's you and you see this coming here, right? Like, I really want to like pull back out this part of the conversation, Jennifer Lee, where it's like you made the move and the people around you didn't understand it.
Yeah, you feel like you're crazy. And I'm sure you
Yeah.
probably felt like you're crazy. It's like, I see it coming, and everyone's like, no, no, no.
But yeah, like an actuary is one of the most stable jobs. I was working at a great company. Like it's like the company people want to get into. I started out there and I was like, okay, I'm done. Because but you get it. You know deep down in there and you can create it. And it's cool that like it's cool, not cool, that like you found like it was confirmed. What I'm excited about is that you kept your path going, and were then pulled in because of your gifts, and now you've been growing it from there. Um, it's making me think, while I was working in tech, that's where I went to next. I created an internal podcast as well, right?
Oh, awesome.
Yes. And so when you say this, I really I get excited about it because I think about the benefits that the messages from leadership, the different ways that people can actually go and consume it, the ease in it there, and then
Onboarding.
onboarding, and also just like my work was in company culture. So for me, I leveraged it from that standpoint. So it was like both company culture and learning and development. So it was like, do you even know what the other people in this organization do?
Mhm.
And like how much more cohesive of an organization can we have if there's knowledge sharing, if there's at least understanding, where it's like sales and engineering, which typically may not seem like they would come together. We're able to hear each other and continue on from there. So my I'm happy to hear that that you do this, because it just takes me back to like something that I was like, this should be here. Like there's another way of reaching internal stakeholders, internal people. And I'm glad that like you're bringing your expertise to make that come to life for people, for organizations.
Yeah, and it's a hard thing because, like, I remember when I was trying to figure it out, and before I started the business, you just feel so hopeless. And you're like, if one more person tells me not to follow the money and follow my passion, I'm going to get angry at them because you're like, it just doesn't work that way. And it actually does. So now I'm like, I got to eat a little piece of humble pie because it does work. Once you lean into your passion, it just seems like when you're like trying to figure out and like make money to pay the bills, you're like, this is not helpful. I just need someone to give me a job. Like if somebody could just like not tell me, follow my passion and the money will come. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. But it does. So now I tell everyone, I said, actually listen to your mentors because it works.
Like, let's can we talk about that a little bit, Jennifer Lee? Like because especially for us here as outliers, like we do things differently, and a lot of us are like we're in that space. We heard it, and you know what's interesting. So I do coaching. That's like my core, and like I was so into it. And then there was a time where like the business wasn't doing well. Like I had more kids coming, and I was like, I just need to get this money in the door, you know? And I remember talking to people, they're like, you gotta follow the passion. Like that, you gotta reconnect. And I'm just like, no, how many people like how are you making your proposals right now? Like that's what I need to know. Like I need to get that product market fit, you know, let me get that niche down, whatever it is. And I remember just being close to that. So like, so when you're saying it really, really like comes out. How did you break through it? Like I hear you now. Like how did you break through? It was like, yeah, let me see yeah, let me pause. How did you break through?
Well, well, for me, I think, and again, I'm not taking anything from COVID because COVID was very serious and was hard for a lot of people. Uh, but I think for me, COVID helped a bit because I had that time. And I was like, okay, now or never. I gotta like try it and trust the process because when COVID is over, then I gotta make my game plan of like, do I switch careers or what do I do? So it kind of gave me a bit of a reset and I was able to be like, okay, I'm doing this. So, who's to know what would have happened? I might have gone into because there were some other jobs that I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And I was going through it. And then COVID hit and kind of reset it. So maybe if it didn't happen, I wouldn't have found my passion. I would have still been out there trying to figure it out.
Yeah, this is cool. One of the things that came to me as you were saying here was just like this thought of like it's never the wrong time. That was like for some reason that just like really popped in where it's like, okay, COVID was really hard, not an easy time. And yet I know so many people who are like, and like it was during that time that I actually like gained a lot. My business took off. We found whatever it is during that time there. And it was like what I'm taking from that is I look at myself right now. I'm like, I have two young kids, all this other stuff. And people are typically like, hey, if you're feeling the stress right now, it makes total sense. You got two little ones at home, so on and so forth. But my thoughts are like, yeah, but if I can figure it out now, with
Mhm.
like in this case, like, do you realize how easy life will feel going forward? It's like, it just, why not? Why not go for it? Why not make it happen? I could take it. I think even right now is a great time. That's really one of the things I pulled out from what you said right there.
Yeah. Yeah. I just say try it, and even if you can't financially do it at the moment, try it while you're doing your job to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And I know everyone kind of talks about that, but I think if you have a passion and a gift and you really want to do it, try it some way to make it work for you. And I know it's easier said than done because hey, we've got priorities in life, but if something really brings you joy, you should try to do it to the best of your ability, even if it's only for an hour a week.
Yeah. So, all right, you just said something that like took my brain in a completely different direction to where I thought I was going to go. You said, I know that everyone talks about that. And I know like, and so what came to my mind right now was like, what's a conversation that people like could be having or should be happening that like you feel like that isn't being talked about right
I think a lot of the times people don't talk about the fact that we have to switch careers and not it's not necessarily or not necessarily switch careers, but transition because like I actually never left broadcasting.
now?
I'm just doing it in a different form. And I was talking to someone about this too. It's hard because when you get to a point and you've been successful in your career and then this shift happens between 30 and 40 where maybe you're industry is changing and it's going in a totally different direction that you didn't think, and you've got to figure it out. It's really difficult when you've left something that was so stable and you were good at, and you got praise from everyone, and your identity, let's face it, our identity, I know people, this is not a very popular thing opinion. It's like a lot of people's identity is tied to their job, and I know they say it shouldn't be, but I also look at it as like, this is my passion and I love it. So why isn't it a part of my identity? So, I understand that some people might feel that it's unhealthy, but I also think it is healthy because at the end of the day, we all need a purpose, no matter what that is. And I think that's something else people don't talk about. When I wasn't having my purpose every day, or having that of like, I gotta be here, or I gotta feel like this, or I'm going in the helicopter, it's really hard. And I talked to many people that have done their transition, and some people are starting their transitions, and we don't talk about that because we live so much longer. Even if we love our career, most of us will have to transition to something else. And I've even talked to people that were rock stars that bought a house at 24, was like traveling the world. And now they've had to take jobs, and there's nothing wrong with that. Take a regular 9 to 5 job, even though they've saved their money, because you live so much longer and
Mm.
things cost a lot more. So I think that's the hard part, is going from your passion and trying to find your next purpose, because we all need a purpose.
I'm glad you brought that in here. Like, because I think there's another level that hits me as you're saying this, which is like continuing to continue to find that growth. So whether it's like necessity of external circumstances or necessity of like, hey, I need to keep growing, that element of transition act is just really, really like valuable. And I want to keep playing with that level of like of transition, because I've had three different careers, and then I became an entrepreneur and I was like, oh, I got this. And then there's multiple pivots along the way, and I'm transitioning with that as well. So I'm glad that I'm glad you're bringing that into the mix here. I want to keep that level of transition. I'm going to probably tie transition throughout and throughout the conversation. Um, I want to get into now like the work that like the work that you're doing right now that's lighting you up. I'm gonna ask you a couple like a series of questions, but what's something that you're doing right now that is just like really lighting you on fire?
So my favorite job right now is I do a lot of for one client, I'm doing coaching because they're doing a documentary style podcast for their organization,
Yeah.
and that fires me up. I love coaching people on how to speak in a more conversational manner because my degree is in acting and we learned a lot about breath work. I'm
Mm.
able to bring that to the podcasting world. So I love coaching people because it was really cool. Last year we did season 1 and then they hired us back for season 2, and the person was like, and this is an executive, they were like, "Oh my god," they're like, "I remember, the tips that you told me last year," and I could tell that she was practicing the whole time, and, like, just to see her growth from last year to this year, and the fact that she remembered some of the things that I said was just so cool. Like, as much as I love speaking, I like helping others speak, so that lights my fire, and I'm actually helping somebody still in the speaking train, TEDx talk right now, and I'm training him for September. And again, I just love when I get to like help people learn like mic placement and like what are the questions you're asking, and how do you be unique, and how do you take a listener either on a podcast or in an auditorium on a journey. So this is where I nerd out and I feel so good about it.
Oh wow, that's really cool. Jennifer Lee, we're gonna keep having conversations because I'm asking myself like a lot of those questions right now. And I think other outliers are too, because we're creating, we're designing our element, right? And I feel that what's cool about what's cool to me right now in this moment. There's a lot of things that are cool, but what's cool about it right now to me is that like that element of like co-creation and pulling out what it wants to be. Right. So I even said to you earlier when before we hit record, I'm like, I'm totally willing and like excited for this podcast to become broken, for it to be, because I'm like I am it's still looking for what design of what this one
I know.
the opportunities to work with people to actually pull that part out, you know. Like what's coming to me, Jennifer Lee, is like your level of expertise with with sharing and talking and communicating through voice is really high. Like even just like mic placement as one of the first things you said about working with someone, I was like, huh. Like now I'm thinking, I'm like, where's my mic? Where should it be? Where's her mic? There's all these different questions that come to mind. I'm like, I didn't even think to think about it.
Mic placement is so big, especially in podcasting. Most people actually don't have their mic placed properly. I can nerd about this is my other favorite topic that lights me up. I can nerd out about mic placement all the time. But even too, the guy I'm training for a TEDx talk, he asked me to come in because he's just starting his public speaking journey because he owns this budding tech company, and so he was like, "We're going to sit down and I want you to coach me." And I said, "Awesome." And then somebody else in the banking world was like, who was going to have my client on the panel was like, "I'm going to do this panel for the first time in this restaurant. Can you help me?" So I actually coached both of them. And it was really an interesting afternoon for 2 hours because obviously this stuff comes second nature to me because I've done it for so long. But it's really cool to like think about like, oh, a lot of people don't know this. And this is cool that I'm helping them with this. And like, because we can become so much like, oh, nobody cares what we have to say because we do it so much. And they're like, oh, wow, I never thought about that. And so it's refreshing to see it through their eyes because I'm just like so used to it now. So like we sat there in the restaurant, we hooked up the speakers, we hooked up the mics because we wanted to make sure that when she did the event, it was gonna go off flawlessly, and I said, "The most thing that most people in any panel do," and watch this next time you go to a panel, no one knows how to hold the microphone, and I said, "That makes or breaks your panel." And these speakers that you're going to panels are usually, like, very professional, super well known, and I'm not knocking anyone down, it's just the fact that, again, mics are unnatural, and when we hold a mic, and this took me it took me a long time to learn how to hold a mic, trust me. Um, something comes into our brain subconsciously of like, "Oh, no, I'm holding a mic," like, like we just, like, do it, and so, like, we pull it away or whatever, and we don't wanna talk on it because we can also hear ourselves coming back in the monitor. So, I tell people, I said, "You wanna hold it properly, and you don't wanna move your head a lot," because the thing is when you're talking, you gotta remember the people in the audience have paid a ticket price to attend this event, and they're there to hear your information. So if you're not communicating your information through the microphone and they're not hearing you, they're not getting value and they're going to be disappointed when they leave your talk, right? So we did a lot and I feel bad for them because they probably hated me after, but we did a lot of like, no, you're moving your mic, like you hold your mic here and the distance, a lot of people don't understand the distance for most dynamic microphones, which is what you use for podcasting or what you use for presentations, which means sound is being directed just in. There are dead zones on the side. So when you move off your microphone and are not shooting it directly in, you're going to get cut off and you're sound a lot quieter on that side. So the problem is when people are using their presentation and they're moving around, again, the information is not getting in there. So it seems annoying, but I tell everyone, hold an object in the mirror, especially if you're doing a panel or a talk, practice, hold a hairbrush, hold a mug, hold whatever you have in your, and try not to move that object and stand in front of a mirror and look where you're going because it's just going to give a better product at the end of the day and it's going to make your message shine through.
I love many different things. So I'm looking at this. Jennifer Lee, you're looking at me right now here on this. Is anything shouting out there as a huge red flag? Let me just check in right now because I like to do like real time things.
I was gonna say your
Yeah.
microphone is kind of tilted to the side, but I didn't want to bring it up.
All right.
It
So
should be like directly in front of you because you have a beautiful dynamic Rode microphone.
mm,
And I did notice again when you sometimes you went really quiet because you were off the mic, but I
yes.
didn't want to mention it.
So it should be more like this, right?
Oh
I should be
yeah,
more like
like
facing
now
this, like
you're
and
making
outline so
my
you can hear
ears.
this, right?
Oh,
You can hear
you're
the
making my
difference
ears
here.
happy.
Okay.
Oh.
All right, this is how we're gonna play. I'm not gonna move too much around, but I'm gonna move you around.
Oh, you
You're gonna
sound
come on a
so
journey with
good.
me.
Oh, there we go.
I'm glad I asked. I'm glad I asked. I'm gonna play this here uh for this conversation. Hold on one second. I'm gonna just move the mic so it feels a little bit more natural. All right,
There
cool.
we go.
Yeah. Thank you. These are
Sorry.
no. This is important. And what's helpful for me and this is I love again, I love playing with people who are experts. And the more I'm realizing two things. One, I really respect experience. Like even like everything I'm about is about experience. I think that with experience comes expertise, right? Like that you can see right now where it's like this guy could just move over. And by the way, am I hitting it better now? Are we in
Yeah,
the right
I can
place?
hear your low tone so well. It sounds so like melty and smooth. I'm like, this
Okay.
is like
That,
your audience is like, yeah.
fantastic and perfect. Um, so thank you for that. This is a game changer for me. Like you step things up a level.
Perfect.
And I love being in space with like the areas that we geek out on, you know, because I'm thinking I think we can all I'm thinking about when you talk about the mic placement and holding it and moving around and so on and so forth. We don't necessarily think about it, but it is still important, and we don't like. And so I'm recognizing like I also really like your style of coaching where it's like it's hands on. It's like let's just do the iterations of it. It feels like going to practice. It's like nope, like you missed it. Nope, you missed it. It's real. It's not just in theory like hold the mic in front of you and talk into it. So but it's like there's things that come along with it. Um,
But you know what? It works because I was talking to someone yesterday that attended that event, did not know that I coached the two people because we do work and other things. And I said, "Oh, you went to the event?" He said, "Yeah, I have to say," he said, "their mic," like he actually said, he's like, "mic placement." He said, "They were so professional." And he said, "Their questions are good." And I said, "I coached some, but it was all them too." It takes a team.
I love that here. And outliers, if you're thinking about this here, one of the things I want to pull out is just how much you may not even know you already know. And what I'm getting about you, Jennifer Lee, is like it's like your expertise in this is so massive that you're like you people don't think that they're not speaking into the mic. I've done like I don't know how many episodes here, but I've done a lot of episodes right now without this kind of placement so far, right? Um, and we live and we learn, but I think there's just so much more nuance in what it is that we actually have already like mastery or expertise in that because it doesn't necessarily fit in the box that other people are looking for or expecting, we're it's not coming out. And so I want to just put that message out there for you outliers. If you're wondering who could value from this or how can my experience be valuable, um, like I'm seeing it in real time right here. And I love like just so you know, my mind is like, oh yes, what else? What else is missing here? What else could we be doing? We need to go. Yeah,
Do you hear a difference in your headphone though? Now that you're like in it, like, do you hear a
I
difference?
I feel like I feel I realized something. My headphone is not connected into the actual like jack there, so it's coming in through more from what the laptop gives me. But I
Oh,
so
okay.
so I'm not sure if it's just like because now the direction has changed. Um, but I feel cooler. And to tell you the truth, like I actually feel more present. I tried not to like have this in front of me because I was like, oh, it's gonna take up too much visual space, right? And so like I shouldn't have it right in front of my mouth. Um, but what's happened is that I actually feel more present to the moment. I feel more in the conversation. So I don't know how to describe it, but I feel different doing this. And the other part of this too is I feel less self-conscious in a different way, right? It's like it's just okay, got it. Now I know. Like I'll adjust it for the long haul, but like I got it now, and I don't have to think about this.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is it's like most people don't want the mic in view, and that's fine. But the problem is you're doing a podcast, and like I said, you're giving so much great wisdom. So you want that wisdom to shine through, and we want to be able to hear it, right? So I tell people, don't be, and this is a natural thing. I was terrified of the mic back in the day. Like I said, it's like a weird subconscious thing. And it took me a long time to be like, "No, Jen, don't move your head. Actually speak into the microphone so people can hear you." And it took me a long time to do it. And the thing is, it's like most people don't have their mic set up properly, but I don't blame them. I went to school for this. So like
Mm,
I'm nerdy. Like I don't
mhm.
expect people to know how to do microphones. So like I'm willing to help change everyone's microphone placement around the world.
We're like, so this is something that's playing out for me. We're about to end here, and I feel like if I don't ask this question, we're gonna miss out on something. Um, you have a very natural like style to you, and it's really quite cool. You're like, yes, I've done like you do broadcasting, you do podcasting, you help other people, but like what I get, like what I experience you, it's so natural. Like, and what I think, and this, I'll put this in the context, like I'll listen to people, let's say on the news, and it's almost like no matter what country of news I'm listening to, they all have like that, what I almost call like a journalist voice, like there's a way to say things and like, and such. I don't hear that with you, one. And the second part of it is like, it just feels like a very natural conversation. Like I feel like there's a high level of comfort that you have in your skin and in your message. And I'm imagining outliers out there feeling that they need to be really polished. And what I get is that I want to make sure I say this out loud, Jennifer Lee. You have to work really hard for it to look easy. So I want to make sure that I acknowledge it. Like I want to talk about that because there's one part of me that wants to free outliers up, and another part of me that's saying like, oh, so what's the kind of work you can do to get to the point where you can just like be free, be ease when you get behind the mic.
Yeah, so this is a great question, and I was just talking on a different podcast that I host, and it was actually with people from Yale, and they do Yale Law and Harvard Law do a podcast together, and so we do a continuing studies podcast, and we're asking questions, and they said the most perfect answer, which I always say. They said we had to prep our show so much to seem free and loose. And I said, you are speaking my language because that's the one thing that most people don't understand being a podcaster or being a broadcaster is the people on top research, 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 prep, prep, prep all the time. A lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to like turn the mic on and like, I don't want to prep because I want to seem cool and loose. That's not what makes you cool and loose. It's knowing your stuff, knowing you. It's taken me a long time, I'll be honest here. It's taken me a long time to get here to the point now that I'm like, oh, I know myself. Yeah, if I had to read a commercial, I know how to make it sound more uh, conversational, more real because that's what we're doing in 2024. I know how to adapt the style. But you really have to know your stuff and you have to know yourself inside out. Most of the questions that you asked me today are something that I've prepped myself, like answers and knowing myself and knowing it through other things that I have done through my life. So you really have to make sure that you know what you're talking about. And if you are talking about something on a podcast and you're an expert at it, lean into that. But always make sure you're always researching, always finding a new angle and knowing your topic 100%. It's like doing a test back in the day. You weren't just gonna, well, maybe you would if you're one of those kids, but you wouldn't just to do a test without studying. It's the same thing to be a great public speaker, and it takes a lot of practicing. And one tip I'll end on this, my favorite tip to give everybody of how I ended up being conversational seems like a weird one, but we all don't read out loud enough. We never do. And this is something I learned in theater school is they said if you want to become a better speaker in general, read a page out loud of any book a night. And you might annoy your partner or it might seem weird and you might seem embarrassed, but do it and see where it takes you in a month. That's really how I got better because it applies to so much of what I do in addition to being prepped. Because when we read out loud, we're a lot of us are self-conscious because we don't wanna screw up on the words and everything, and our brain kicks into that kind of protection mode of like, "Oh, no, like, I'm gonna read like this because I don't wanna, like, make it sound like I'm gonna screw up or fumble." But you just keep doing it, and then you'll notice yourself getting more natural and natural over time. The more you're comfortable with speaking out loud, the better you're gonna be as a speaker. And yes, we speak out loud in conversations, but we actually don't read and speak out loud enough.
Jennifer Lee, I'm not gonna lie, I did not see that one coming. So I really appreciate, like, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you. Thank you for bringing like your expertise into this space. Thank you for bringing your experience into this space. Thank you for doing the prep that you've done. And this I can imagine in like the short terms, but also in like the longer terms. Like you've been investing in your craft for a long while, and I'm grateful to be able to benefit for that, and also to share it with outliers there. For anyone here that is interested in continuing down the journey with you, whether it's working with you, whether it's listening to some of the things that you put out there, what's the best ways for them to go do that?
You can go to my website, which is jpodcreations.com, or they can also just email me if they want to say hi, Jennifer Lee Gunn at gmail.com, or you can hit me up on LinkedIn. Always love to. I think that's how we met was LinkedIn. So there you go.
Mhm. There we go. All right, so we can play that out all out there, and I like to end our conversations on one last question. I call it the time capsule question, and the question here is this: What's the message that you would leave to yourself that you didn't listen to for another 10 years, but it'll be something where in 10 years you would want to be reminded of this thing that you know to be true right now?
Trust in your gifts are going to lead you to what you want to do in life.
And with that, we are done. This is it. This is great. I appreciate you so much, Jennifer Lee. Thank you for bringing all of you to the table. Thank you for helping us like really feel comfortable in the audio part, but also like in the transitions and stepping in and to lean in more and more and more into what we know, into our experience and into yeah, just the life that we've lived here. I'm appreciative of you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for having me on. And now you got good mic placement. Love it.
Yeah. I'm like, I got it. I got it. And Outliers, I'm going to say thank you on behalf of Outliers. They're going to enjoy the listening experience that much more. I appreciate you.